candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with Avag Beck's podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great episode. Today, I have the pleasure of having Emanuel Rose with me. Emanuel is an author, an entrepreneur, and we are going to have discussions along those lines. Hi, Emanuel. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. So, author, entrepreneur, those are heavy titles. Lots of work behind the scenes if you if you know about it. So, what enticed you to take on this level of torture, rewarding torture?
Well, I had hit a spot where I had a couple bad experiences in a row as an employee.
Right.
And, I had a big bonus that I'd been reneged on, and I had gotten hired as a change maker and then got let go pretty much 30 days later. And I'm like, well, I must be unmanageable. And so I better just start my own business. And that was about 15 years ago when social media was just really taking off. And I was 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the people who became my clients, and it's stayed that way for the last 15 years.
Wow, that's beautiful. So basically, did you expect to have that career sustained for 15 years, or was it something that you're like, okay, this is an impasse, I'm going to try this out, how bad could it be?
Yeah, it was more like, I'll give it a run and see if I can continue to bring value to conversations, and then got, I'm old enough now that I've seen enough of the bubbles and the ebb and flow of business, and started to have some opinions about what works for most people, and then that's when I started to delve into the book writing for the marketing books about marketing to Generation Z, about why every founder and CEO should be their brand's biggest advocate online and biggest influencer online. And then leveraging the AI and how we can best manage this amazing piece of technology that's showing up in our lives.
Absolutely. What has surprised you about entrepreneurship that maybe 15 years ago you didn't think about it or know about it?
Well, I think the toughest thing is for me has just been around finance and cash flow, and being able to charge enough and have big enough clients and be able to then take care of all the taxes and licenses and staff and assistants and independent contractors to get help on this, that, and the other thing, and be on top of all the changing world, right? I mean, especially in the last 4 years, with the way that the economy has been, it's been super challenging with the price of everything going up. And so that's been a challenge to, like, I just raised my rates with the clients that I started with 15 years ago. I just raised the rates this year with them. So, that's been the hardest part for me.
Wow. So let's talk about the new age founders and entrepreneur. You mentioned that founders need to be their brand's biggest advocate. How do you do that without coming off cringy and pushy? Because not everybody receives things the same way. How can you be effective in advocating for your brand and selling your brand to your ideal customers?
It's a really straightforward recipe of being on video, doing exactly what we're doing here.
Okay.
And then on days when there's not podcasts, or weeks when there's not podcasts, then either talking about what you did over the weekend, what fundraisers you went to, how you spent your time and why, what your values are as a human, who your favorite customers are and why, and what you're getting from working with them, who your staff or favorite contractors are that you're working with and what you love about them. And then, once every 10 posts, something about your product or service. But become really comfortable on video. That's the first thing. And then 90 seconds of video is plenty once a week. And you can as you know from running the podcast, that you can take 90 seconds or 5 minutes and you can turn that into 50 pieces of content across all the platforms that you need.
Right. So I think the comfortability with being on camera is something a lot of people shy away from or are concerned with. I was one of those people, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a photographer and videographer. I function wonderfully behind the
I'm
lens.
on the other side. Yeah, I got you.
You want my best work, stick with behind the lens, right? However,
Yeah,
in front of the lens was something that I really did struggle with, right? And the one thing that helped break out of that was basically having these conversations where
sure.
I'm worried less about the lens. I'm worried less about looking at myself, how I'm presenting, how I look, how I'm reacting. Rather, I'm focusing on my client or on the person that I'm talking to, the conversation at hand. What is the tip of a sense? Because I don't like the word advice because people get, testy about advice.
Yeah.
What would you tell an entrepreneur who may not be in the space where they're holding a conversation? However, they have to put out recorded content about their product through the fumbling.
No, I understood. And it is a learning curve for all of us.
Yes.
And, and it's been a learning curve for me. And, I'm probably 300 podcasts in at this point as a guest, and I got
Nice.
100 under my belt as a host. And so, but it took that many for me to feel comfortable. What I brought with me was from my days writing radio ads and being on the radio, which was you always talk to one person, even if you're talking into your iPhone and you're going to make a TikTok or you're going to post something to LinkedIn. You're really in your mind's thinking, I'm just talking to I'm talking to my mother, my best friend, my favorite client, and one person. And so it's not a performance. It's an explanation. It's a narrative, and it's a chance to be authentic and transparent with what you're going on, as if you're talking to DMing a friend.
Right. And that is a great tip in a sense. It should be an advice, people. So it's an advice right now. So that's
Yeah.
a great advice because something a friend of mine did was that one of my intro videos, what he did was he was on the phone on FaceTime and he said, talk to the camera like you're talking to me. So
Right.
he's a big SEO expert, Fave. Thank you. He did that for me. And that kind of like really kind of catapulted this comfortability in front of the camera. So if you have somebody that is willing to be on FaceTime on, outside of the periphery, that would be good. Just like envision you're talking to somebody, your favorite person. That is great. So let's talk about your journey as an author. What brought that joy of writing, and especially with children's book? What stirred, the love of writing for children that you went that route?
Yeah, the children's book series was part of a legacy I wanted to create as a human, and watching the world slip deeper and deeper into digital catatonia.
Mm.
And then on top of that, have the grandkids that were born, and I wanted to have a way to impact them and their thinking, and hopefully develop some interest and joy and desire to be out in the natural world, something that I've done my entire life, and that I prioritize and get a great deal of joy from myself. Just like today, after this, I'm going to drive out to some BLM land where there's nobody. I'm going to go for a hike on a creek with my dog, and get away from the screens because the weather's nice.
Yes, this is beautiful out. So, did you get any formal training to write? Anybody who guided you along the path of what to write, how to write for a certain age group, or maybe some blueprint somewhere that kind of like guided you along that, writing journey?
Sure. Yeah. I'm one of these guys that I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. And so I wrote a bunch of stories, and then I said, oh, this one is interesting. And I paid somebody to do an illustration, and I just printed it one copy for my grandson. And so I did some rough drafts that way. And then I finally found one of those stories that I felt like really stood up. It was about forest fire. It was during a time when there were a lot of fires out on the West Coast, and I thought that made a lot of sense. And so then I joined the Society of Children's Book Illustrators and Writers, and then I hired a consultant who is a woman who's in her 80s who's been writing and illustrating children's books for a long time. And I got that help, right? Both from that type of association with other writers and illustrators, and then also one-on-one help from somebody who's very experienced and very accomplished.
Nice. Beautiful. The one thing that you said that stood out was help. I got help.
Absolutely.
How much of the entrepreneurial journey is about humility in accepting support and help?
Well, I would say for me, it's a lot. I'm a committed lifetime learner, and I've got the constant flow of Amazon books and Audibles on my phone, and every day I'm triggering new thinking and new narratives. And I've done, the 2-year MBA programs and been part of study groups. And I think especially if you're a solopreneur or you're running a small team, it can be very tactical, and that you've got to have help to get your head up out of the work and see where you're headed, in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your main business right now is in the advertising sector, right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
correct.
So how did you start there? Did you always have a career in advertising when you were in the corporate world? Or was it something specific that, piqued your interest in the areas of advertising?
Yeah, I've always been on the sales and marketing teams
Okay.
and enjoy it. I love the storytelling. I love new products. I love creating a campaign and then seeing the results of that campaign, with that people actually clicking and buying and trying things and sending feedback back. So it was just my natural proclivity to be engaged with the people at that level and work to problem solve and develop business for the companies I've been involved with.
Okay. So are you currently your core, your customer core, is it a B2B or B2C or, enterprise, I should say, enterprise client or the everyday entrepreneur who's building up their brand?
Yeah, my client base is the kind of the larger small businesses. They've been around, have established customer base, and maybe they have 1 or 2 people that they have some marketing help with, but they need some help staying up to date and not getting too much what I call marketing debt, where you're behind, right? Like, oh, we should have updated the website last year, but we didn't want to, or we know we need to get our past customers reactivated, or we have a product launch that we need to promote, but we don't have enough staff to do that. So that's where my team comes in and supports those areas where there's not enough human capital. And it really takes 6 or 8 people with different disciplines to be able to manage marketing in this time that we are. All the copywriting and design and outreach and funnel creation, and then tracking and reporting. Those are all different disciplines, and it's difficult for small businesses to have a big enough team to do all that work.
Yeah. So what is your advice for small businesses? Say a small business that just started maybe within the last year, they can have enterprise level clients, however, they're still building themselves up. So where should a business like that start?
Well, there's a few tactical things. One is make sure to leverage the AI tools that exist and get some help generating and developing your ideal client profiles, the content map for those ideal client profiles, and initial pieces of content.
Right.
We know on the B2B side of things, it takes 6 to 10 hours worth of content for somebody to then make a buying decision. And so we have to have that much content in video, in audio, in social posts and blog posts, so that somebody can self-educate. B2C is a little less complicated depending on what vertical you're in, but lever the AI to develop very clear paths of your ideal client, and then use the AI tools to stay in touch with your prospects and clients all the way through the sales process.
Right. So if we're talking ROI when it comes to, the results on the other end, when it comes to advertising, what would you say the results that your company brings to your potential clients are in terms of ROI?
Yeah, it's different for every client. Like, for instance, we have a small chain of health clubs that we work with, and we're building for them a return on their advertising spend that's in the 3 to 5 times range, and
Okay.
and that's usually 3 times is kind of the minimum that I target for a marketing spend. Right? If you're going to hire my group, I want to get you 3 times the money back. Otherwise, it's not a good investment. So that's that 3 to 5 times ROAS is really what we should be looking at.
Right. So what is the most you've accomplished? What ROI has actually shocked or surprised you? Maybe it was just a fluke or one-time thing, or you've seen like consistency in a specific industry.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some Black Friday sales that were like 25x. So, but that's like the Super Bowl. That's
Not
the
a
high
sprint.
water mark. Yeah, I don't want to be on the hook for that every campaign.
That is a sprint if I've ever see one. Wow,
Yeah,
25x. Was that
yeah,
on services or physical product?
yeah, services. Yeah.
Services. Wow. In your experience, right? Does physical products do better than services, or you see services have better outcomes?
It really again depends on the vertical or the product offering. But what's nice about physical is that you are able to, as long as you have inventory, you have unlimited upside,
Right.
right? So that's always what was nice when I had a client that was an electronics company, and we could sell 10,000 units in a day,
Yeah.
based on the ads, and that always feels amazing. But it just depends on what the product is and what the program is.
Got it. Got it. So, how about digital products? What is your experience with digital product?
I mean, I sell my books by download, and so it's an interesting process, right? Where you're able to produce an ad that's digital. The person goes to a website, and it's just everything's contained on the computer, and then
Right.
the money magically gets beamed to the account.
Is it magic?
Yeah. It still seems a little bit like sorcery to me, but it is. It is. I do love the social media ads, and I think
Right.
that is a way that small business and startup business can get a lot of value out of their ad spend is in social ads. And like, for instance, on TikTok, we don't do a lot of TikTok native programming, but we do lever the TikTok ads
Right.
and have good benefit that way.
Other than TikTok, is there another social media platform that either mirrors that or remotely comes close to the reach that TikTok has?
Well, TikTok has been unique in that it was, it's one of the great ways to contact Gen Z
Mm,
and those people that are, under 28, kind of that 12, 13 to 28 range, still have some access. Instagram is similar,
right.
but it tends to be skew a little bit older, and so there'll be the next thing that will come up once TikTok, if it actually does disappear in January,
Yeah.
then something will take its place very directly.
Okay. So we're just watching and waiting.
Yeah.
That's nice. So let's discuss a little bit about AI. Not a little bit, we don't have to make it little. So AI. AI has its benefits, right? AI, when used correctly, is a very beneficial tool. AI still does need human oversight, right?
Sure.
So, what is your position on the fear or concern that people may have in AI taking over their roles, their job roles, or business owners who are still not utilizing AI in certain practices when it comes to, like you stated, leveraging some of this for getting that content and framework done for what you have to do with reaching your target audience?
Yeah, I think first of all, every business manager, founder, CEO needs to make that mandate that AI tools have to be part of the tech stack. It's not an option. It's not going away. And so you need to build some use cases and understand what the security threats are and what the obligations are to make sure that it gets used correctly. But it has to be integrated into the tech stack at this point. And like you said, the human has to always be in the loop. So the companies that are using it and leveraging it correctly are using AI, a philosophy of AI first, human in the loop, managing the reporting to see that the KPIs are being met, and then innovating and changing providers if the KPIs aren't being met. So that's the structure for it, and the leverage is 25 to 100% of time savings. There's things that, especially if you have to parse data or do research and any kind of historical data, the AI can crank through that way quicker than humans can. And then as you probably know, with the content development and video editing and short creation and these things that we do as content marketers, the leverage is massive.
It is. And the concern that people are worried AI is going to take over their jobs. I have an acquaintance who's actually an attorney, right? A
Uh,
policy attorney.
yeah,
And he feels that with the rise of AI used more and more by corporation, I should say, enterprise level clients, that more and there's less requirement for him, in a sense, if an AI can put together a legal document,
yeah.
which is state specific on whatever subject matter, over employee, contractor, and everything in between. Why am I needed as somebody who spent years and years in law school? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting challenge that each industry has. And I think, for instance, the legal industry probably is going to be a little more prone to some replacement.
Mm.
I think that, a lot of the philosophy is that people who are using AI in every industry are going to be the ones who have the capacity to maintain their roles in those industries.
Right.
People who don't and act like it doesn't exist or don't or are afraid of it, those are the people who will get replaced either by the people who are using the AI or the AI itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean there is going to be some constriction that happens inside the HR departments because of the AI tools, but hopefully it's for things that were drudgery and that the humans weren't enjoying doing, and that they're freed up to go and do something more creative. Your friend who's the attorney, he should be looking to go and make new relationships and be on, go and interact with humans, right? Get some new clients
Yeah.
and, to take another part of that industry and focus on that versus just the rote part of writing agreements, right? Like that should have been, we've been writing the same agreements for 600 years, 400 years. So that should have been replaced.
I didn't try. I wasn't that direct. However, I did. I did encourage, like, getting familiar with the prompting, right? Because again, AI needs oversight. It cannot do everything. It has errors, so that's why we kind of like need the human to skim through
Yeah.
whatever to address things to see if Article 45 of whatever is correct, right? Because you still have that experience as a human being and you were educated, and this is where you come in. So as opposed to, oh, it's going to take over and there's nothing we can do, we're past that at this point. It's too late to
Yeah.
have that worry. So is
Exactly.
if you feel you cannot outsmart the system, however, learn along with the system. And there are people that are traditional, very traditional in their thinking and their practice too. Not that they'll be left behind, but more that they're slow to get onto the bandwagon. And you have been around. I think it's safe to say you've been around to see the ushering in of new practices, even with the .com era, right?
For
The
sure.
interweb, right? People were
Yep.
not very keen to the WWWs of the world, or even putting your
Didn't want to
credit
put
card
their
in.
credit card in to buy something on the internet, right? I mean, now we've been dealing with that the whole time.
You do it from your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
So how has this been that you have seen when you started your business, this was internet was still kind of new and not everybody was on board with it. And now we're in the AI era, which you've also ushered into your business practices.
Yeah.
What has that been for you to see these evolutions and, taking them on?
Well, for me, I tend to be kind of duct tape simple about this stuff, and I always say I want to maintain the fundamentals,
Right.
and so the marketing fundamentals are unchanged, right? We've got problem, solution, call to action, and we need to find people who have the problem that our products and services solve. So those, as long as we stay focused on that fundamental, and that we need to have good messaging that can go to those people, then we start to say, well, how can the AI help me write emails to my prospect list that's clearer and better and more fun and more engaging and better click-through rates? And how do I produce these pay-per-click ads that are going to get better results? And so as long as I can stay focused on the fundamentals and not get into spray and pray, which we see a lot of right now, a lot of really terrible marketing where they're sending me emails about women's shoes and things that I have no interest or desire for.
What, you don't
Just
have interest in women's shoes, man?
well, I do, as long as they're attached to my lady, and then I'm very interested. But I haven't, even in 25 years, I haven't gotten good enough to buy her a pair of shoes without her there.
Hilarious.
There are some boundaries, yeah.
I think that's the thing with marketing, because everybody's an expert these days, right? And
Sure.
for founders, especially in the early stages of starting a business, they trust marketing agencies scattered around the globe to market for them. And it often, results in very bad activity,
Yeah.
right? Like the one you just eloquently stated, right? You're selling a hairbrush to a bald guy. Like,
All
what's the
right. Yeah.
use? you
Yeah.
know?
No, not happening.
So how should a business owner kind of like sift through the sea of, online marketers, gurus, and everybody else who's trying to acquire a customer? What are the cardinal things a business owner should look for?
Yeah. When somebody's looking for marketing help, one, they need to like and trust the person. That's the first thing. So you want to have some time, some conversations, a few conversations, and make sure that your values align. One mistake that business owners and managers often make is, they want to make sure that we've done work in their industry before, and that is kind of a misnomer. Sometimes it helps to have somebody who's an agency that's very experienced in the industry. Sometimes, but oftentimes it really is not helpful, because again, the fundamentals are the same.
Right.
And the business owner is always going to be the subject matter expert, right? They're always the SME. And so they're the final approval for the way the wording happens and certain positions that are taken based on the trends in the industry. So that is not important as much as that they've had success for the type of person that you're going after, for the age group, for the gender, for the professional level, for where they live in the country, that they've sold to those types of people before, and that they have clear processes that they can outline, and that they have KPIs that they're going to report on back to you daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you require. And that consistency of communication is the secret to marketing that the health club client that we've increased their sales 40% this year. But that was after about 2.5 years of just kind of breaking even on this 3 times ROI that we were talking about earlier. So we finally, after a couple of years of good but not exceptional results, then we were able to get exceptional results because we finally massaged it and pieced it all together in a way that's really amazing.
Right.
But that takes time. And there's an old Chinese proverb that says everybody wants to shoot the bow, but no one wants to pull the string. And so the investment in marketing is a consistent investment. And as long as you're getting some or all or a little return on your marketing dollar, then you've got to keep innovating and making it better. And you want a partnership with somebody who understands that, both from the client side and from the agency side.
So basically, for these 2 years that this specific client you're talking about, who's at 40% increase, were you the marketing agency for them for those 2 years, or you got involved recently after they tried out their marketing tools for the last 2 years? Then when you got involved, they saw an increase.
Yeah, no, we've been the marketing agency for the last few years,
Right.
Even just a little bit before COVID. And so, building back this kind of retail level gym
Right.
membership was a challenge.
Okay. So what was the magic? What happened? Because, for 2 years, if it was just a break-even investment, right? Then all of a sudden, boom. What was the magic? What clicked? What happened that, at a time where you talked about, having to raise fees for your client, I would think people would be more reserved and conservative about spending. What happened that they're now, at 40% increase?
Well, I wish I could say very definitively what it was, but in general, there's a certain amount around the consistency of it. We know that we used to just need messages 7 or 10 times before we made a buying decision at the retail level. Now it's 25 or more. So we have a very strong presence in social media, both for posting natively and then also for pay-per-click ads, the social ads. We've also committed to lots of content that's downloadable for people about, seasonal fitness, nutrition, trackers, all those things. We stay on top of the fitness trends. And so that's what the blogging and the social media posts are about. And then a very consistent email schedule. Twice a week, everybody gets email that is content first, sales second, and both members and prospects get this consistent messaging. And they know that they can count on the brand to be there for them with good, solid information, and that the manager is there every day, smiling face, and he's the influencer, So it's the consistency and then good offers. So you have to have good offers with good call to action.
Right.
And I know it's kind of general, but that's the magic, but it's not really magic. It's just the consistent activity.
So with email outreach, how do you keep consistency without being spammy?
Well, it's about a content calendar, making sure that you're bringing things that are timely. So seasonal, weather oriented, social, norm related, the holiday schedule, trends, and fundamentals. In this case with fitness, we're looking at, like we did a piece about the shots that people are getting that are, helping them lose weight. And then what are the trials and tribulations and what should they be worried about with that? So, we're holding on to these trends, we're holding on to the seasons, and then you can tell by your unsubscribe rate when you hit overkill with your email. If your unsubscribe rate starting to tick up, then you know that you're overdoing it. You can back it down. But as somebody who pays attention to numbers, I want to push it to that point where I'm getting unsubscribes, right? So that I know what the appetite is.
Right.
Plus, you could tell by your opens and clicks, right?
Okay.
Also.
So with unsubscribe, right, there's usually the pop-up that asks you why you're unsubscribing, right? Do
Yeah.
you pay attention to those feedback as well?
I mean, we've feathered it in so we're not getting unsubscribed. I mean, it's a
Okay.
fraction of a percent
Okay.
at this point. So no, I mean, people get fatigued. I mean, I don't not that concerned about that. What I'm more concerned about opens and clicks, and I want to make sure that people are getting are moving through
The funnel?
the funnel. Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right. So what makes a successful funnel?
providing enough value and a good call to action to get them into the next step.
Mm.
And the funnel is not so much about driving them through the funnel, but it's about observing where they're going to self-educate. And it's about having content in the different forms necessary: video, audio, written, entertaining, and seeing which pieces of content are the most consumed. And then eventually that they're leading down to becoming a customer, and then becoming a brand advocate where you actually get some user generated content from them.
So going back to result, we talked about funnels, we talked about the result and longevity and consistency, right? Do you have a timeline where a founder, business owner should expect to see a break even at the very least with the ROI?
It's hard to say that without knowing where they're starting from, right? So there should always be transactions, right? And the first of the transactions that we're looking for are people clicking and spending time on self-educating. That's the first thing. Downloads, that kind of transaction. Maybe it's phone calls, maybe it's appointments. So it really depends on the KPIs that the founders established. Ultimately, we need to produce sales. That's how we assess the efficacy of it. But if you're zero, if you have nothing, then probably 60 to 90 days is a good window in very general terms. If you have you already have a going concern and you have some clients, then we can turn it on and we could have results in 2 weeks because you have people who are already doing business with you. And then we're going to innovate what you have going on or your prospecting campaigns. And so that can move very quickly. But startup, that's the challenge. That's from ground zero is a tough one.
Ground zero is tough.
Yeah.
It is. So, in your experience, right, is there a difference between targeting enterprise or corporation, so B2B, and targeting customers, B2C? Which has the faster growth and which has the sustained growth? Because, you can go fast and then stop, right?
Yeah.
Or you can go slow but sustained, right? I have an
Yeah.
inclination. Let me see if you even
Okay.
matches.
Yeah. Well, you and I could say, hey, let's write this ebook over the weekend, and on Monday we're going to start selling it on Facebook, and by Monday night we could have sales, right? So direct to consumer can be very quick with the outreach that we have now. When you're talking about B2B and enterprise, if you're talking about small business, oftentimes you can get and talk directly to the decision maker relatively quickly. And if it's a low dollar acquisition, then you can usually, that could be a 2-week process, could be quick.
Right.
If it's a high dollar piece of software or hardware, then, that could be 2 years. So it just really depends on the product.
All right. So, which one has the most sustained growth?
Sustained growth, I would think that it would be on the B2B side.
Right.
But it just depends on the product. I mean, if you're talking about a new product,
A tool.
like
A tool, like
a
in terms of
tool,
a software, yeah, a tool.
yeah. So I mean, best case would be that you would sell both direct to consumer and to enterprise, and you'd have two separate offers. And sustained growth comes in a software tool from continual innovation. because in 6 months, whatever you've got today is going to be out of date.
Right, right. That's true. So is the marketing different, markedly different, or slightly different depending on enterprise versus B2C?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you have a lot more. In the enterprise space, you have many customers, many people advocating for the change, many people fighting the change. You've got to deal with IT and security and already existing software usually,
Hmm.
and so it's a much bigger process than being able to just, if you say, "Hey, I got this great AI tool that'll take a picture of your face and turn you into a chicken anytime you want," and it's $4.99. Like, all right, cool, easy here, you know?
The one thing is chicken. You couldn't go like, lion. You know,
No, chicken. That's what everybody's talking about. The kids today, everything's chicken. It's so funny.
chicken.
Yeah.
Uh, so wow, lots to learn, lots of insight. So how patient should we be with marketing?
Well, I think I look at it in phases. And so I want to make sure that there's some testing that happens that's low dollar testing, $50, $100 testing. And to make sure that, A, I have all my systems set up correctly so that if somebody is interested, it works correctly. And then I can start to get some market feedback because I'm not smarter than the marketplace. And a lot of times what we come up with is based on good theory and good history, but it's not always accurate. And so we want to test inexpensively, build some actual knowledge as quickly as possible, and then step it up and increase the dollar spend. So $50 is a great test. $500 is a great phase two. $5,000 is a great ongoing campaign. And like we said, we should be getting 3 to 5 times ROI on that. So it's not necessarily patience; it's just correct testing.
So are we talking per day, per week, or per month?
I like to look at the weekly, the monthly, and the quarterly
Okay.
because there's ebbs and flows in all those, right? Human behavior is not like a flowing stream. Like we know that people have certain behaviors on Mondays, they have different behaviors on Fridays, and so we have to be able to see the trends through bigger blocks of time. That's why I like daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly.
Okay. So does that factor into the kind of marketing dollars being spent? Because the things that are pay per click. So and that is definitely a daily. So when somebody
Yeah.
is setting a budget for something like that for pay per click, level of advertising, what do you generally tell your customers?
Yeah, to be conservative with pay per click. If you can there's products now called real time search leads where we actually are able to pull the people who are searching for things on the search engines.
Right.
Those are better values. You also have the ability to unmask your website visitors and remarket to those people.
Scary
So
stuff.
it is scary. It's been around for a long time. It just finally made its way down to small business.
Yeah.
But these are better leads than paying for clicks a lot of times because you're actually paying for the specific individual
Right.
who's looking for the product or service that you offer.
Yeah. Great information. Great information. Lots to learn. So, if somebody's listening to us, Emmanuel, and they're interested in working with you, what do you look for in an ideal client when it comes to revenue, when it comes to years in business, when it comes to expertise, when it comes to availability to create the content that you need to market the product? What are your, cardinal check boxes for your client?
Yeah, it's really about the person and that they are a subject matter expert and they've got a good product or service that is innovative, and then that they realize that they may know something about marketing, but they don't
They're not the expert.
know everything. They're not the expert, right? And that they're willing to take some risks with me and say and trust that my team is going to be able to help them in ways they're not going to know or understand sometimes, and then that we're able to establish KPIs together and have that be the litmus test for success. I love both physical products and services. I have deep understanding of manufacturing and electronics and those things, and then all the service businesses. Really, we work with companies that are about $1 million in gross sales to about $25 million. That's kind of our sweet spot.
It's heavy tickets. Heavy tickets. All right. This was a great conversation. So everybody, I learned a lot from having this conversation with Emanuel. And if you learned anything at all and you're interested in reaching out, we will make sure everything about Emanuel is in his show notes. So his website, social media handles, his business. So you can reach out, talk more to him about potentially marketing your business, working with him to make sure that your target audience are being reached, because that is where you make your money, right? Trust, like he said, trust in the process. It can be frustrating to want to see that, return right away, or the 2x, 4x, 3x return that you may have in your head, but it doesn't happen overnight. Like the story he did tell, it takes time. And once you have that sustained growth, it is something to be enjoyed. So thank you very much, Emanuel. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say to be focused on being a lifelong learner and keep the Amazon books coming by Kindle, by Audible, or by delivery, and keep learning. That's really what we're here for. Enjoy the process as much as the big checks.
Absolutely. Enjoy the process. Be a lifelong learner. Be flexible in your learning, because whatever you may have thought or envisioned the process to be, it usually changes. Human behavior. We buy differently around holidays than we do every day. So having that flexibility in mind is going to help further energize that relationship you have with any marketing team as you go on this journey. KPI in mind, ROI in mind, and all the other acronyms. So enjoy the process. Stop and smell the roses. All right? Enjoy nature. Be like Emanuel. Go out, hug a tree, camp out, fish, stop. So that's the way he relaxes from the digital world. So thank you again, Emanuel, for being here. We'll let everybody know how to reach you. Please let us know what you think about this episode. We'll continue to bring you content like this. For if you're starting a business, you already have a business, you're thinking of starting a business, there's a lot that goes into it. And, we'll bring on experts to continue to educate you. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care of yourself and each other. All right? Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Avik Beck's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world.